my dad got to me before I got out.
Oh.
And he just beat the shit out of me.
Oh,
And he was beating me.
Jim.
And I said, God, why are you doing this to me? Then I had sexual abuse. I never talk about that. Probably 6th grade through sophomore year in high school. One of these times I said, God, please help me. And I promise, if you help me, I will help others. Clean the laundromats in the evening. And on Saturday, I would go to the cleaners and do janitorial stuff.
Yeah.
And I had 2 paper routes. So we started off at, first year we did, I think it was 45 million.
Okay.
And then we ended up at $1 billion 15 years later.
Wow.
Yeah. The number one thing for my success was work hard. I always worked hard. I believe for me, he put me through that. He protected me in my life. That I was here to help others. It's him telling me, he says, Jim, I just understand how people with money can't help others. And I believe it's our job to help others.
Our area is better because Jim and Tammy Pierce are in it.
Buckle up. This is What the Hell Do I Know with JB.
Hey, Jim.
Hello there.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
I'm so excited to have you on this episode of What the Hell Do I Know. You know, I know a little bit about your background, but everybody I come in contact with tells me you've got to hear Jim's story. You've got to hear Jim's story. And they tell me that this story has a lot of ups, a lot of downs, comes out of some chaos.
Yeah.
And even through all of that, you were able to find a way to have some success. So why don't you give our audience a little bit of your background, if you don't mind, and then we'll dive in a little bit of your story.
Yeah, so I guess people who know me here know how much that Tammy and I support charities, and especially Emerald Coast Child's Advocacy Center, which, they focus on helping abused kids and preventing abuse. And so, I really think once I tell my story, and I really believe that it was God's plan to have me have the life that I've had.
I want to make sure that if you like what we're doing, I mean, again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You wouldn't believe that most of you, and I see it because you'll comment and you don't even realize that you haven't subscribed to the show. It is a free way to support what we're doing and the content we're putting out. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button right now.
So early on, I think I have to go back and say, well, my mother, she was, because we're all children of our past, right?
Right.
I mean,
right.
It really makes us. And
it's amazing.
So, it is
how when you think about how much life you live outside of your home as a child.
Yeah.
But how much that childhood affects you.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And so my mother grew up in a Jewish family.
Mm-hmm.
And then she ran away with a Gentile at a young age.
Okay.
And they actually buried my mother officially. They had a ceremony and took some of her possessions in a little shoebox and buried it in the backyard.
Her possessions?
Like they would take, let's say a piece of her hair or whatever. And they officially had a burial ceremony because she left the Jewish community and married a Gentile.
Well, and so Gentile, just so our audience might know, would be non-Jew.
Yes.
Christian. Anybody outside the Jewish faith.
Yeah.
Right.
And I struggled with that as I grew up because, how could you just do that? But, the Jews have been so tormented over the years, over the ages.
Displaced.
Yeah.
Generation after generation after generation.
That they try to keep their just pure. So anyway, but then, and she had a daughter, and then they divorced. And meanwhile, my dad, he got married at a young age, and he grew up in a tough life because both his mother and father had died when he was in high school.
Really?
And so he had to support himself went through college. And then he got married and had 3 boys. One passed away early, which they did back in those days. Many children passed. And then his wife passed. And so now he's a single man with two sons, and she's a single woman with 1 daughter, and they got married. And then, let's say a couple years later, I was born.
So blended family.
Blended family, that's right.
All right.
And
Where were you born?
I was born in Tucson, Arizona.
Tucson, Arizona.
Yeah, and then I ended up going back to Phoenix later in my life. And I never thought I was going to leave Scottsdale until I met Tammy, and she convinced me to come here. So
How about that?
yeah. So anyway, so then they got married, and I was born, and my dad had and one brother was 10 years older, one brother was 8 years older, and the
Okay.
sister was 8 years older.
So,
Okay.
So you're the youngest and the only one from the pair of them
Yeah.
together.
Well, actually, they ended up having another one,
Okay.
but he was born retarded
Okay.
and never got out of the crib.
Wow.
You know, and so and so he was part of the life.
What year was that?
He was born a couple years after I was. So I was
Okay.
born in 52.
1952.
52. Long. I'm
I mean,
an
that's-
old sot. you know?
That's what's great is I hope that our audience, my audience runs from like 18 to about 44, is
Okay.
probably like 85% of my audience.
Yeah.
And I really hope that they'll lean in because we
Yeah.
can learn so much from people that have lived a life. I say this all the time to young folks, but you really do not know what you do not know.
That's right.
It is
That's
hard
right.
to
Oh,
it is
my
hard
God.
to say that.
Yeah.
And when you're young, you don't feel that way. I don't know if
Yeah.
you felt that way, Jim.
Oh, I didn't know. No,
You thought
I
you
had
knew
no-
everything,
I
right?
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and very lucky man. But I'll be 74th in next week.
That's awesome.
And so I'm just old compared to most of your audience.
lot of-
you know?
yeah,
So,
for
you know,
sure.
I could be
For
their
sure.
father or grandfather. Anyway, so
My mother's 74.
Well, I know. Well, yeah. And so we went around our business, and then, but that's where my life. I mean, what happened was my parents divorced,
Mhm.
and I ended up
How
going.
old were you?
Oh gosh, when they divorced, I was in, I would say 3rd grade, 2nd grade.
Wow.
Don't remember exactly.
Okay.
But I do remember I lived with 15 different family units.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be all but one was relative. So it could have been grandmother. It could have been my father remarried, so it could be my father and my stepmother. It could be a step. They had older kids, so it could be a step brother kept me for a year. Could be
so you moved
my
around.
mother. I went to 15 different schools growing up.
From elementary to high school. Were you ever? What's the longest you felt like you stayed at one school?
Oh, I never went to the same school more
The
than 1
same year?
I never, no. Well, I finished a year, but I
Okay.
never ever went back to the same school. Now, as
Jim,
close
so
as I
you
came
basically
to
had to remake friends
Oh, it was-
every single
that,
year.
Yeah. One time, my mother took me back. I was living with just my mother, and I went to one school in the 6th grade. And then 2 years later, we moved back to the same district. I got to see my friends at 8th grade. And then 2 years or 3 years later, I went back and saw the same people at the 10th grade.
Okay.
That's the only continuity I ever had.
Right. Why
But-
do you think that was that you were going through all of these different changes?
Well, looking back, I mean, it was just my parents were kind of were unique. Well, both of them were alcoholics, and both of them married alcoholics.
That's a double.
And then and my mother, and both of them were brilliant. My dad was an engineer and consulting engineer, and he would invent things. And so when he invented things, he'd get a bunch of money and create a company, and then it would go well for a while. And then my dad was a terrible businessman. If he had just hooked up with a good business guy, it would have changed his life. And he, as brilliant as he was not a good businessman.
Hard worker.
Hard worker, but he
Good
just
ideas.
great ideas. I mean, he had great
Just
ideas.
just
poor business.
Poor execution.
Poor execution. That's right. And so we would go and we live high on the hog, and then we'd go. I mean, I can remember all five. I guess there was five of us in a 2-bedroom apartment.
Make sure you support my boys here at Floors.com. We're in their studio right now. That's FLOOR. Z.com, baby. Floors.com. They will take care of all your remodeling and new build needs. Floors.com. Check them out. Tell them the Jabroni sent you. True North Pest Control, they take care of all them critters. You got palmetto bugs, they take care of them. You got ants, they got you. You got bugs little flying around, they'll spray for them. They clean out all the cobwebs. They're all over Central Florida, here in the Emerald Coast, and then the whole state of Georgia. Check them out, TrueNorthPestControl.com. They are your pest control superheroes.
Because he had no money. I mean, it was just, and then alcohol on top of that, and then. So then that contributed to, I mean, I told you 15 different family units.
Yeah, yeah.
And so through those years, I mean, I suffered a bunch of physical abuse from multiple people. I had mental abuse.
What age were?
I mean,
time.
as a kid, up to the physical abuse was probably. First grade up to, probably up to junior high school, maybe. I'm not sure, but yeah, the younger years, and then I had sexual abuse, and I never talk about that, but that occurred, probably sixth grade through probably sophomore year in high school.
Really?
And both.
Did you move out of that house?
Excuse me?
Did you move out of that house, that situation, or
no?
You just got bigger?
No, because what happened was,
or older.
People. When you have that kind of situation, people know it, and so, it wasn't my mom or dad who did the sexual stuff. I mean, it was other neighbors and
so somebody that could take advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And may they rot in hell. I mean, seriously.
Right.
And it's just, I mean, I can remember I'll just say one time there was I spent the night with a friend down the street. Mm-hmm. His dad worked for Disney, and his dad's now long gone.
Right. Right.
I was, I don't know, sixth grade maybe.
Well, I'm sure in your age, nobody talked about this stuff. I mean, you didn't talk about any of this
and
stuff.
there was no place to go for help, and you didn't know.
Right.
And quite frankly, in most of the cases, I didn't even know it was wrong.
Yeah.
Most of the case, it was, well, this felt good, it's okay, But then later,
generationally, there's been a gap where we haven't talked healthily about sex. Generations.
Yeah.
I think hopefully this generation's getting it. Hopefully generations to come get it. I think we're having better discussions about it, and there's resources.
Yes.
I mean, you mentioned the Children's Advocacy Center. There's great resources.
Right. So I spent the weekend with this guy, and I won't get with my friend.
Yeah.
But said the father tried something, and I backed away, and he came in, and it scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And came in and told me, hey, if you ever tell anybody, I'm going to kill you and your mother.
Sure.
I mean, I didn't sleep for a
months,
long time.
right?
Yeah, a long time. But anyway,
wow.
So, but I ended up.
Jim, what do you because? So that's a lot that you had to press out, and we'll, that's a lot. That's a lot to hit. I mean, our audience is hearing this, and they're probably on their way to work, going like, "Wow, that is a lot for somebody to go through." The amount of abuse that you went through, and I know you have processed this. You're now 74 years old, and so you're speaking at it really well. But if there's a kid today that's listening to this, 18, 20, 21. And they've had this all shoved down in them, what would you say to that kid?
Get some help. Mm-hmm. Get some help. And there's plenty of. There was no help for me.
Right.
I mean, and there just wasn't.
Right.
And
right.
And quite frankly, that was.
Well, shame comes along with it.
You
think it's your fault?
Oh yeah. So it's like.
If you have any religion that's been surrounding you, it's like, well, you're not. That's. Whatever. You're having all these kind of thoughts that are coming in at you. And so number one thing is get help.
get help. And I can remember one time I was stuck. When you're getting beaten, you know, you want to get out in the open. You don't want to be,
Right.
because people usually, even back then, they didn't beat you in public. They beat you behind closed doors. And so I can remember one time, I mean,
Outside the doors, you put the Sunday best on,
oh
right?
yeah, that's right.
And you
your
never
neighbors don't
tell
know.
anybody.
No, not at all.
I used to say in the Southern Baptist Church, my favorite, the number one prayer request in the Southern Baptist Church was unspoken. Because you just didn't talk about it.
That's right. That's right. So I can remember one time, I mean, my dad was drunk, and I couldn't tell you what I did. You know, half the time when I got beat, I didn't know what I did. You know, but anyway, so he started getting up from his chair and started to undo his belt, because that's what he would beat me with. And he didn't beat me with a strap. He beat me with the belt. The belt buckle.
The hard side, yeah.
So what I did was I ran down the hallway, and to their bedroom, and their bedroom always, my mom and dad's bedroom, at the time they were still together, and you had a sliding glass door. And so I could get to that sliding glass door, open it up, and get outside. And usually, you know, if I stayed outside for a while, usually he would calm down. You know, he would either fall asleep or calm down or whatever. And that day, it was locked. It was never locked. It was locked, and my dad got to me before I got out and trapped me between the bed and the wall. Oh. And he just beat the shit out of me.
Oh, Jim.
And he was beating me.
Jim.
And I said, God, why are you doing this to me? I'm a good kid. Why are you doing this to me? And I did pray. I did pray. I mean, even, you know, and what happens is when you beat a lot, you kind of just become a shell. Yeah. I mean, it hurt, but you just
go somewhere else.
You just kind of leave your body, you know. And I one of these times I said, God, please help me, and I promise if you help me, I will help others. And so Tammy's in my life now is a lot about helping others. And you know, I'm not that religious. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus, and I try to treat others well and whatever. But anyway, so we but let me you know, your listeners don't want to hear all my bullshit, but it's all about.
I think it's an incredible story, because you've got to understand where you came from to see how successful you've been in life, because somewhere there was a change. I mean, from that story of beatings, and it seems like I mean, did you have to compartmentalize things to a degree? Because I've talked to people that have been abused that would have put all the blame back on themselves, that I got to get better. I need to do better. It seems like you knew you weren't a bad kid.
I didn't.
Something was wrong with them.
I never felt that.
Right.
And I just never felt that. You
right.
know?
Right. Well, your chaos, moving houses from year to year, seeing alcoholism. I mean, you obviously were like all of us were giving this inalienable sense of right and wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you knew what was right. You knew what was wrong. And so you just had to go to a different place because you didn't know how to get out at that point in time.
Yeah.
There was nowhere else to go.
And then what happened was my parents got back together.
Oh, wow.
My sophomore year in high school.
Okay.
And I was living in Temple City, California, which is it's a suburb of Pasadena, LA. And they got together, and I stayed there for a year with a friend. And his parents were kind enough to say, look, let Jim finish the school year, and we'll ship, you know, where he can move back out to. They moved to Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So they can move to Cherry Hill, New Jersey at the end of the school year.
Okay.
So that's what happened. I stayed there, and then I moved to Cherry Hill. And Cherry Hill, I learned a lot, because there were 2 high schools in Cherry Hill.
Okay.
And Cherry Hill where we lived was an upper class area, but the school I went to was West Cherry Hill.
Okay.
And it was all Jewish.
Near the coast of New Jersey, or
it was right on. It was southern New Jersey, right across the river from Philadelphia.
Okay. I kind of know the area.
Yeah.
New Jersey's the Garden State. For people that don't know, it's
Yeah,
really a beautiful state.
It is a beautiful state.
It's a beautiful state.
And nice people, and,
Yeah,
and
really
it
is.
was a great place.
Mhm.
So I was senior in high school, junior high school.
Okay.
Excuse me, junior in high school, but it was all Jewish. There were 2 Gentiles.
Okay.
Now, typically in the Jewish religion, your mother determines if you're Jewish or not.
Okay.
Right?
Did you consider yourself Jewish?
And I did not. I
Okay.
considered myself Christian.
Okay.
And and I went to I went to church on and off when I was a kid.
Was there any moment in time that you can remember saying, wow, okay, I get this Jesus story. I want to know more about him. I want him to come and live in my heart. Was there a point in your childhood?
Not in my childhood, no. In my childhood, no.
Did you
I was-
see it as a salvation of eternal life, or did you see it as this guy could make my life better?
I think
How did you view it? Because you said you
I didn't. You know
you-
what? I
yeah.
think I had a good back. My parents were an enigma because
Seems like it.
they were. If I had met them now, let's say I met,
Yeah.
they would be great drinking buddies, great fun people, smart people, fun people. They were just shitty parents.
Terrible parents.
Terrible
right.
parents.
Right.
They had already, had their kids. Because my one
Right.
brother's 10 years older, one was
Right.
8 years older, my sister was 8 years older.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
it was chaotic, and they were tired of it.
Yeah.
I mean, back in those days, they didn't have birth control, right?
Right.
And so she got pregnant. She didn't mean to get pregnant,
Right.
and they really didn't want another kid. And
Yeah.
they were, that's part of the mental abuse. She said, I didn't ask for you. I never wanted you, but and so, but as far as like Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts and stuff, I think I did that one year because they would say, look, we've done all that before. We don't need to do it again.
Did you throw yourself into studies then? Did you find that because your outlet doesn't sound like your outlet was the Boys and Girls Club, doesn't seem like your outlet was Boy Scouts, doesn't seem like your outlet was sports, maybe
Yeah,
even.
no, not as
Because I
much
mean,
at all.
all the chaos going at home, who was going to
Yeah.
support that,
So,
right?
I'd have jobs,
Okay.
because I helped pay for myself. Like when it was just my mother and I,
Yeah.
she was working, and I would have to help pay. So
Really?
like I would have 2 paper routes. At
Okay.
one time, I was a janitor for a family who had a couple of washing laundromats. They had laundromats back in those days,
Mm-hmm.
and cleaners. So I would clean the laundromats in the evening, and on Saturday I would go to the cleaners and do janitorial stuff.
Yeah.
And I had 2 paper routes, and
Yeah.
so during them, I would go and do papers early in the morning. So, but I would have to have, I would help pay for myself. And in fact, one year I lived with just my dad.
Were you
Yeah.
contributing to like the rent
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
groceries?
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah.
we're not talking about you're paying yourself so you could go to the movies or something.
or have a car or something.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
You're
Yeah.
paying to
live.
To live.
And it got worse than that. Is
Wow.
when I my parents kicked me out when I was towards the end of my junior year,
Mhm.
and we were living in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and I was a straight A student. I mean, I won't get into why they kicked me out. They kicked me out, and so I went to go live with my sister,
Okay.
and she and her husband lived in Birmingham, Alabama.
So you moved. Now you come to the South.
Now I come to the South. I'd never lived in the South before. I had, I lived in a lot of different places around Southern California, Vegas,
Yeah.
Wichita.
What was your biggest, like, okay, this is different?
Oh, so I moved down there in 1969. I graduated in 70. So it could
So
have
you
been
got some
68.
civil rights things, I guess,
Oh
right?
yeah, oh yeah. So I got my first job. So my brother-in-law, bless him, I just
Mm-hmm.
loved him. He's passed now,
Hmm.
but think about this guy. So he, at the time, let's say he's less than 30 probably,
Mm-hmm.
and I was 16, and he and my sister had just gotten married a couple of years before. They had a new baby, and he took me in. He took me in, and he said, "I'll give you a roof over your head, but I can't." He was a milk truck driver. Milk to stores. He worked
Okay.
for.
Yeah.
Many of your listeners might remember Barbers. Barber's Milk Processing.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's out of Birmingham. Anyway, so
he took it to grocery stores.
he took it to grocery stores.
Okay.
He had no money. I
Yeah.
mean, he was a hard worker. Good guy. Good.
Yeah.
Just good.
Salt of the earth sort of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he took me in. He treated me as his son, really.
Wow.
Even though
How much older was your sister? You said 8?
10 years.
10 years.
8 years. 8
Okay.
years for my
Yeah.
sister, 8 years. And he was a couple years older than me, older than her. So
Mm-hmm.
so he was 10 years older than me at the time. So I was 16, so he had 17. He had to be 27, right?
Wow.
So think about that and took
Yeah.
that on.
Yeah, that's a
And-
lot. That's a lot.
And so I moved we had a 600 square foot room, apartment.
The whole apartment,
the whole
600
apartment,
square feet.
600 square feet. It was World War II housing, which they had turned into public. I mean, it wasn't public housing,
Right.
But somebody owned it. Okay.
Right.
It was $65 a month rent.
Wow.
Okay, but 600 square feet. Now in that, it was 2 bedrooms.
What would that be today? I mean, I don't even know the number.
think
Like I know what the size of 600 square feet, but what would $65 a month would be?
Oh,
What, like
let's say 100
500 a month, 600
less
a
than
month?
that. No,
yeah, less than
no,
that. You
less
think?
than that.
Okay.
Let's say even it was 3 times.
Three- yeah,
Let's
yeah.
say so that
Maybe
was
300 a month or something like that now. Yeah.
Next.
Yeah.
But so in one bedroom was my sister, her husband, and a new baby born, born baby, and maybe 6 months a year, less than a year old. It's still in the bassinet. The other room was his sister and 3 grammar school kids, and her husband had left her. And when I say left her, he left her in the middle of the night.
Oh, wow.
So she was raising those 3 kids,
Wow.
and we had 1 bathroom.
Wow.
So when I first got there, I got a job selling encyclopedias. And when you say, what did you remember? So they would sell encyclopedias. That is, you learn so much.
Oh,
you
yeah.
learn because they drop you off. You take it off and they drop you off.
You
by
have one
3 o'clock.
encyclopedia, right, or 2, or
What's that?
do you have a couple encyclopedias in your hand, or do you have like
no,
one
nothing.
or 2?
You have
don't have anything.
you have a briefcase that has images and stuff.
Images, so
Yeah.
you're not even bringing the books, okay?
No, you're not bringing books.
Which I kind of need to step back just for a second.
'cause
let
your
our audience
people don't even
That's what I
know
say.
it.
Let our audience know. Prior to the internet, we had books,
yeah, that's right.
and we learned things from an encyclopedia. Was like your Wikipedia
Yeah.
of today.
Yeah.
But it would have been printed, and you would have. You would have different versions. So you would have version 1 through I don't know how many. Maybe every couple years they would update.
Well, they would they would
And you
update
could-
it with it. They would have an annual book,
Right.
that would update the
The
different
things inside it.
yeah.
That's right. But it would go from A to Z,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yep.
And you would buy, some people would buy, like you could buy the core group, you could buy A to P, you could buy whatever.
I just
you could buy
remember
one.
buying the
I
whole
remember that.
thing, but
right. Right.
and then when
we had an
oh.
encyclopedia at our house. We had the whole
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, and so they drop you off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now we covered 5 states or 6 states, 7 states. So
It's an amazing thing, this door-to-door stuff.
yeah.
It's almost unhand of now.
Oh, you can't do it now.
I mean,
You can't do
there are
it.
people that still do it, but
Yeah, but
it's rare.
yeah, back in those days, I mean, when you could hitchhike, and you didn't worry about. I
Yeah,
used to
right.
hitchhike because I ran away. I probably ran away 10 times in my life.
Really?
But then I'd get hungry. I realized, so I'd run away a couple
These
days.
are only people that feed me. They'll beat me, but they'll feed me.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So I'd go back, but anyway, I can remember they drop you off, and
Mm-hmm.
I can remember going to like Selma, Alabama.
Selma.
Now, your listeners probably don't remember, but
Martin
or
Luther,
don't
right?
even know, yeah.
Martin
And-
Luther King Jr.
And the Selma Bridge, where they,
Yep.
murdered some people.
Yep.
And that's back in the days where, man, they if you were a civil rights person and you were caught by yourself out in the South, I mean,
You may not make it out
may not
alive.
make it alive. And I
White
was-
or black.
yeah, either one. Yeah.
If you were
yeah.
for that movement,
Yeah.
it was not going to be good.
It was,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people now just don't realize how bad it was.
Right.
I mean, it's come so far.
Right.
So far. It's
Right.
gotten a ways to come.
Sure.
But it has come so far. So I can
Sure.
remember seeing posters, KKK, Ku Klux Klan,
Right.
meeting behind Aunt B's barn on Saturday night.
Just like they were saying, this was the
Picnic.
4-H club.
Yeah.
They come to the picnic.
Yeah.
Hosted by
yeah,
KKK.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, it's the slave trade was so big. I saw a timeline on it, something we forget, like when this country was kind of first founded, we had slavery for a long time, even before we were founded. The colonists that came over and slave trade around the world was really heavy. I saw an article the other day I was reading, which I didn't realize. I think the guy's name's John Newton, and I'm not sure. I'll post edit. I'll throw it up there. But the guy that wrote Amazing Grace was a slave trader.
Oh, was a trader, not a slave.
He's a slave trader.
Wow.
And on his boats, he was coming over on a ship, and they got capsized, and he had an experience in that he thought it was all going under, and he's praying and crying out to God, and God saved him, and he was like, if you save me, I'm going to find a different way. And so he didn't over time he didn't quite quit the profession. He started treating people better, but over time he became a pastor and gave his life completely over to Christ. Completely released slave. Was against the slave trade for the rest of his life and spoke out against it the rest of his life. But when he penned the words, "Amazing Grace that saved a wretch like me," it had real meaning.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? So we have a long history of that. And when you think about civil rights, it's only been, from the 60s to now, 60 years. Yeah. So we had 250, 300 years.
Yeah.
When settlers first came here, that were all operating in that trade. So you're right, we have come a long way, but there's a wild history behind it.
So two stories.
Yeah.
Two stories that, and hopefully your guests, hopefully your listeners won't relate to either one of these stories.
Right.
But one was, I was in high school, so I did encyclopedias that summer, and then I got a job working in a milk processing plant. And when school started.
Okay.
So I worked from, let's say, 10 at night to 6 in the morning.
And then we'd go to high school.
Then I'd go to school. I come home, shower, go to school, and then when I got off school, let's say 2 or 3 o'clock, I would go home and sleep for a few hours.
Wow.
Do it again. And I was
Did you ever
really
feel
driven.
exhausted in that? Did you ever just feel, like all the time, right?
Oh, yeah. And, you're young. I was, so I was 17 or whatever.
All right, fair.
Now I do it like 2 days. And
it's funny. My son just passed his financial exams. And so congrats, Jackson just got through it. He's now wealth management. And he graduates in May, but he passed all his state series, whatever. It's like different series stuff, and it's incredible. But he was talking about how he's so tired and he's got a test coming up. He wasn't sure what to do. I was like, "You're young. You'll get through it."
Yeah.
And he did. He's fine. But it was just funny because for me, I might need another day of rest after something like that.
So it was. So two things. One, when I was going to school, I had this one teacher. Now, this school, it was in Birmingham, not the best part of town, but not the worst part of town.
Right.
And we had a few blacks. It was still, think about that's back when Wallace was president.
Oh,
was
governor. Yeah.
And Johnson came in and brought federal troops in to take over to allow, I forget their names, but allow a couple of students to go to Alabama.
That's right. That's right.
This is history.
Wild times. This is historical times.
And she would just berate this guy. And so one day
Who was berating him?
A teacher.
A teacher, okay.
I don't even remember what's...
So it's integrated then, but just a few
blacks
in your high school.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so one day I stayed after school, so I said, "Why do you treat him that way?"
Yeah.
And she just said, "Because they're monkeys. They're monkeys, and they shouldn't be in this school." And she said it with, such vigor and such hatred.
Yeah.
It was just... So that's one story. The other story was, I can remember when I was in college. I'll get to college later, but when I was in college, I had a '61 Falcon, and gas was 25 cents.
Come on,
your listeners. If they haven't shut me off yet, this is an old guy.
Oh man, that's amazing. Though 25 cents. What are we like?
Self-service,
close to 4 now.
Yeah,
I think I saw 3,
maybe.
Over 350 for sure.
Yeah. So
here in Florida.
So it was. So I pulled in this gas station. It was self-service, right?
Yeah.
And back in those days, you pulled in, they'd wash your
service.
windshield, and they would fill your tank, and they'd say, "Thank you for coming."
But this was self-service. You went to the self.
No. This was
you went into full service.
Full service.
So somebody comes up there, and they would pump your gas, right?
Oh yeah, they pump your gas
and clean your
wash
windshield.
Windshields, yeah, and And so I had to go to the bathroom so bad.
Yeah.
So I just got out of the car and went to the bathroom.
Yep.
And it was filthy.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
when I say filthy, it looked like it
Nasty.
hadn't been cleaned in 10 years.
Yeah.
I come out and I see the owner. I don't remember the owner's name, but it's just, hey, Bob,
Yeah.
hey, man, I come to your place all the time for gas.
Yeah.
And you treat me well. But I said, I got to just tell you, your bathroom is terrible.
Yeah.
And he starts laughing.
Yeah.
He said, where'd you go? I said, around the corner. And he said, you dumb whatever.
Whatever. Yeah.
He said, that's the N. Use the word N
Oh, he
word.
used the N word.
He said, that's
Yeah. That's their restroom.
bathroom.
So he
said-
probably never cleaned it,
He
touched
never
it,
cleaned
nothing.
it. He didn't care. But,
Didn't care, 'cause that's
so they
for
had
them.
separate bathrooms.
Separate bath. Wow.
I mean, think about
Wow.
that. You know, it's just
Wow.
So it just it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a interesting world. I have a number of black friends of mine, brothers and sisters that I know and love dearly, and plenty of them will tell you that it has come a long way, and that they're thankful, and that every movement they've had, they've needed their white brothers and sisters to come along and say this isn't okay.
That's right.
And they've needed that to happen, and they'll tell you it's been better. But there are times where I have one that just told me the other day that, he lived, and still to a degree does, but when his kids started driving cars, he would really, really pray for, how their interactions would be if they were to interact with someone that in the wrong neighborhood, pulled over at the wrong place, wrong time by the wrong person. Sometimes those things, there's an inherent racism sometimes that happens that we don't even know about.
So, I go back to when I was in Cherry Hill, and it was only two of us Gentiles, right?
Right.
I couldn't get a date. I would have to get a date because the Jewish parents wouldn't let their daughters date.
Big Jewish population there, is that right?
It was all Jewish. It was
in
all,
in Cherry Hill, New Jersey?
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
the high school
Okay.
I went to, I was the only one of two Gentiles there.
Oh, wow.
And so it was, so I would double date. So I have somebody go and he would go and pick up his girlfriend, and then she and I would be in the back seat.
Yeah.
And then would go to work, pick up my girlfriend, and he would go to the door so the parents would think that it was a good Jewish boy picking up their daughter.
So you experienced some of that yourself in
both.
New Jersey before you moved down, and so when you moved down south,
it helped me.
You saw right away like this
crazy.
This crazy.
It's crazy. It's just crazy.
So when you come through all that, you've graduated. Where'd you go to college? I mean, how did you get into college from this mess? Because I mean, it sounds like you had to bootstrap yourself through your life.
Yeah.
Up to this point, you get it. Where did you go to school at?
A school called Birmingham Southern.
Okay.
So what happened was
Is it still around?
it just closed last year.
Okay.
Just closed last year, but when
Small
I
school.
went, it was a small liberal arts Methodist school,
Okay.
Methodist-based school. They gave me a scholarship.
How off grades?
Yeah,
Okay.
and so I was pretty much a straight A student in high school,
Yeah.
and so, but I had to work full time. So I had to support myself, right? So I worked full time at night in a bank as a computer operator.
Okay.
And so same type of thing, worked from all night long. And I wanted to get in and out, so I graduated with honors in 3.5 years.
Oh wow.
And I would just go all year long, and I would take extra classes each time. And so then when I got out of college, before I got out, the head of the business school called me in and said, "Hey, we have a chance. Somebody wants to help somebody get into Wharton."
Okay.
Now, Wharton, for those people who don't know,
Pennsylvania, Ivy
Business
League
school.
business school.
one of the top three. So it's Wharton, Harvard, Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Columbia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I said, how could I can't afford these. Look, they're fellowships.
There's only so many paper routes in a day.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Right.
So I did that, and that was a 2-year program.
Wow.
I got through, and I thought, hey, it's going to be,
Why do you think they picked you? Did you? So they said
Because
somebody wants to help.
I worked or was working full time.
Okay.
They knew my story,
Okay.
and I wasn't necessarily the smartest kid in that school.
Okay.
I did good, but I wasn't the smartest. But think about it, I was working full time.
Yeah.
And still graduate half a year early, and making.
But you made an
most of
impression. You made an
Yeah.
impression on people.
Yeah.
It's not that you just showed up. You obviously talk to professors.
Yeah.
They learned your story. You're engaging with people. I think that's something that young people need to know. Is that sometimes if you're in a bad situation, and then you just you isolate yourself and you put yourself in a corner, how are you going to get out of it?
Yeah.
And so it's something somewhere along the lines. What made you do those things? What made you say, I want more? Do you think it was just all the chaos? I mean, something in you said, I want more.
There's two things, multiple things, but I think the man. Remember, I told you I worked in a laundromat and as a janitor and a cleaner. The man who owned that business, he and his brother owned that, and he just worked his tail. It came from nothing, built his own little business.
Okay.
So he was upper middle class, had a good life, raised 2 kids.
Couple cars, house, food on the table.
The American dream, right?
Yep.
And he taught me my work ethic, I think.
Okay.
Then the other one was, I told you I lived in 15 different homes. One time I lived with my 10-year-old brother.
Okay.
Older brother.
10. Yep.
And it was he and his wife and their 2 little kids.
Okay.
And he was working 3 jobs. No, 2. He was working a major job. I don't know about my family, but he was a milk truck driver too. But he would deliver milk to homes.
Okay.
Back in, and again,
milk was a big thing, huh?
Yeah, milk was a big thing, and people don't know it, but they would actually bring jars of milk and put it on your front step.
You got it fresh.
And fresh. I mean, it was fresh. So he did that during the day, and then at night he worked in a gas station.
Okay.
And then he went to college.
Okay. And
he graduated with a 2-year, but he worked his tail off.
Yeah,
you know? And I just said, I don't want to work that hard. It's funny because I was working my butt off, but I said, so
there's got to be a better way.
Better way. So he did that for like 6 years to get through a 2-year program.
Okay.
So when I started working after, when I started working in this bank when I was in college, as a computer operator, I'd go in, okay, hi, I'm Jim, I'm Joe. And everybody was, all the guys were, it was all guys at that time.
Yeah.
All the guys were in school. And I'd say, oh, what are you? Oh, I'm a sophomore. How long have you been here? 3 years. Or 4 years.
Okay.
I said, man, I'm not doing that. I am getting in, I'm getting in, I'm getting out. So that's what I would do.
Okay.
And so that's when I graduated 3.5 years, and I got to go to
Wharton.
Wharton, but I want to tell you a story or two I won't go back to high school because I apologize I didn't do this. But,
no.
So, my sister and I, one day my sister gets a note from a letter from the school board in Birmingham. Said, show up you got to show up to meet Mr. Sam and bring your brother, bring Jim. So the 2 of us went down there. And this guy goes, it's come to my attention that your parents live in Cherry Hill. I said, that's right. And they said, well, then you have to pay tuition.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what? He said, it's, if your parents live out of state, you have to pay tuition. We can't let you just stay here free.
Oh, wow.
And luckily, the man could have ruined my life, right?
Yeah.
Because I would have had to drop out because I couldn't have afford. I was working to put food on my, to eat. I was driving a '61 Falcon that I bought for $50 and I reworked the engine.
My goodness.
But I had been around. You don't live the life I have without creating some gonads, all right?
Yeah.
And I looked at this guy. Now, again, I'm 17. 17.
And you're in Alabama?
I'm in Alabama, in Birmingham.
Yep.
And I looked at him and I said, sir, I just want to ask you, I want to verify the facts here. Because when I leave here, I'm going straight to either ABC, CBS, or whatever. I'm going to go first to
Broadcast Network.
Broadcast Network. And I want to make sure you and I agree to the facts.
Yeah.
Okay? My parents kicked me out.
Yeah.
I'm working full time.
Right.
I drive a '61 Falcon.
Yeah.
I'm number 1 on your tennis team, and you're going to ruin my life. I just want to make sure you and I agree. Those are the facts. Is there anything I said that you disagree with? Because I'm going to go straight to the TV station with this. And he looked at me and he goes, I'll get back to you.
Wow.
And next day I called my sister and said, forget it. But he could, if it hadn't been, if whatever, you say what it is that, that he would have ruined my life.
What?
Because I would have had kick. I would have, and nothing.
Yeah.
All these people I have helped with my life.
Yeah. Well, it would have gone a totally different way.
A totally different way.
Why do you think, I mean, coming from that abuse and the chaos and everything that you came from, at 16, 17 years old, you're getting out of it. Somehow you had this gumption to stand up for yourself. Was it, I mean, you put your foot down when you got out of it. Do you think that, was there something that clicked in your head? Is like, I'm done with it. I'm going to stand, like nobody else is going to do this to me ever again.
I don't know if there was anything like that,
Because you did.
But I did. I tell you what, though, I was driven. I really, really wanted
It clicked with you. Something clicked in.
And I'm a very materialistic guy. Even back then, I mean, it's hard to be materialistic when you have nothing.
Right.
But, I
still saw the advertisements.
I wanted success. And so that's why I worked. I mean, I worked.
Yeah.
And that's all I did. I mean, in college, high school mainly, I mean, I did play tennis.
Okay.
But I never went to practice. When I went to that school.
Yeah.
I asked the tennis coach, I want to play in your team. And I said, but I can't. I have to work. I can't. I'll make every match, but I cannot go to a single practice. And he said no.
So when you go through Wharton School of Business,
Yeah.
You're out of Wharton School of Business. You're coming out of this trauma. I assume you don't go back home and say, "Hey, Mom, Dad, I've made it." Did you ever address any of that? I mean, counseling wasn't a big thing. So did you ever address it then? I mean, how did you, or you just kind of bottled it up and talked about? And obviously, you've worked through a lot of that.
Well,
time,
we actually did make up because what happened was my mom and my sister were always close.
Okay.
And so, I lived with my sister, and then I moved. I was actually living in the same apartment complex with her after I'm in college.
Right.
And so they came down and lived with her for a while. And so I saw them, and we made up.
Did they ever get sober?
No. And it was one of those things that, it's kind of like unspoken.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I never said, well, why did you beat me?
Yeah.
Why did you do this? Why did you do that? And I can remember when my mom passed, and I went, and it was in the funeral, and I had some alone time with her as she was in the casket. And I broke down and asked her a lot of questions. I said, why did you do this? Why did you do that?
Mm-hmm.
But we never, it was never that, hey, it never said I'm sorry, and I never asked why. It's kind of strange.
Very interesting, yeah.
No.
That's very interesting. One of the things that I seem to come across, and this is something that I talk to people all the time about, is generational sin. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we don't see it, but that abuse is something that is passed down, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And so I can only imagine, it doesn't make it better, but at some point somebody's got to break it.
Yep.
Somebody's got to stand up and say, this isn't okay. I'm not going to do that. And so I know that's something that was important to you, and I know it's all the good, and I want to get to some of that. But I want to fast forward a little bit, because you come out of this school, you've worked through this chaos, this massive chaos in your life, and that could have put a lot of people down. And plenty of opportunities to give up. Where did you start finding success in the business world? Because you've had some massive successes. Where did you start finding that?
After Wharton, I went to work for, first of all, at Wharton, almost everybody there had 5 to 7 years experience. Mm-hmm. They go work, and then they go to graduate school.
Okay.
It was only a very small handful of us who went straight from undergraduate to graduate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then when I graduated, it was a recession.
Uh-huh.
And so a lot of the guys went to Wall Street and whatever.
Yep.
But, if Wall Street had a chance to hire somebody with 5 years experience or somebody, I didn't even go to those interviews. But I went to Arthur Andersen.
Oh, wow.
And I never regret.
Which was a good firm.
It was a great firm. I was there, it was a great firm.
It was a great firm. I know a lot of friends that worked at Arthur Andersen and got out before it went bad. But yeah.
So,
look it up, young kids.
Yeah. So anyway, I did that for what I started in the audit side, actually.
So you went through the CPA in that world, is that correct? In the finance world?
Yeah. So what happened is so funny because I didn't have accounting training. I took accounting 101 and 102 when in undergraduate school.
That's great.
And then, but when I joined this accounting firm, I said, I have to have I got to become a CPA, because you couldn't become a partner unless you were a CPA.
Yeah.
You could become a principal and make a lot of money, but you couldn't become a partner.
Yeah.
And I wanted to become a partner.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I said, can I sit for the exam? You know, you have to send in your credentials and stuff. And they go, you're not an accounting guy. How are you going to sit for? And I said, oh, I went to Wharton, you know. So I did. No, you got to count. This was really an accounting course, and and I used all my BS I could
to get in.
And so they said, okay, you can sit for the exam. And it was 5 parts, I think it was, and you had to pass 2 for count anything. So I passed 2, and I was really happy because I was working 12, 14 hours. I mean, I don't know how much I was working. I couldn't study. So then the next one I went, and so anyway, I finally passed it.
Yeah.
So I became a CPA.
Took you a couple times to pass it. Is that right?
No, it took me 2 on the first one, and it took me 3 others
to get through it all.
Oh, and
you didn't study for it, though.
I didn't study for it, but it was.
But you start learning which answers are wrong.
Oh my God! Yeah, after you take them all, So I'm a very lucky man.
Yeah.
I'm a great test taker.
There you go.
It's just
that
one
helps.
of those things.
That helps.
Some people can and some people can't.
Well,
and,
part of being
whatever.
a good test taker is being able to decipher the junk options that they give you.
Yeah.
Process of elimination.
Yeah. And so we anyway, so I moved from the audit side to the consulting side. And then I got bought away, if you will, to Ernst & Young. At the time, Arthur Young.
Yeah.
I was in Houston.
Okay.
And they offered me, he said, look, come on over if we're going to put you in charge in consulting. Now, Anderson owned the consulting business, computer consulting business.
Okay.
They did. They were far ahead of all the other accounting firms. And the other accounting firms would then get people who were just before partner or just after partner to go build a practice for them.
Okay.
And I thought, hey, and at the time, I thought I was the greatest thing. I mean, you're young, when you're young, you don't know, whatever. And so I went over there,
That's right.
and we were very lucky. We then 3 months after I went over, the price of oil fell through the floor. And back in those days, that's all Houston was oil. Houston's a lot of technology.
It's diversified a little bit more now, right?
More, but
that's all it was.
Oh, it was. And so I'm thinking, what did I do? What did I do?
And is you're auditing all oil companies there?
Yeah. But I was on the consulting side, so I was on the computer side, okay?
Okay.
And so what happened was...
What year are we in the 80s?
Oh, God, that was 85, I think it was. Yeah, because I made partner in 86.
Okay.
And so, so it was 80 and 85. So anyway, but we grew. I mean, we added more, in the next 2 years, I added more people than Anderson had added. And I was bigger now than, at the time it was Big 8. There were 8 accounting firms that had consulting. And we actually were bigger than all the other Big 8 except for Anderson.
Okay.
And they actually moved the headquarters for that region from Dallas down to Houston. I mean, we were very, very successful.
Okay.
And so then I ended up in Chicago when Ernst & Ernst & Winnie merged with Arthur Young. I got promoted, and they moved me up to Chicago, and I had a fourth of the country in consulting reporting to me.
Okay. And so you just moved up the chain of this corporate ladder and structure, working hard. What do you think was your number one reason why? I mean, because people are going to be listening to this and think it's just, I need to put in just hard work. But there takes a little something special to make it all the way through. I mean, there's plenty of people that work hard. But what is the difference, the separator that you felt like you had that would get you to that partner level and get you where people wanted you and wanted you on their team?
Well, one thing, I didn't have kids.
Okay.
And partly because I didn't get into it, and I'm not going to get into it,
Yeah.
but, I had a retarded brother.
Mm-hmm.
And then because of my childhood,
Mm-hmm.
I just
That didn't look, that
I
wasn't
didn't
look
take
for
the
you then.
chance. I wasn't
Yeah.
one of those. I just never had a desire to have kids.
So you think
And
that ability to just really focus on work?
That was part of it,
Mm-hmm.
So that was part of it. Part of it was maybe because by changing schools every year, I had to adapt. And living with 15 different family units, I had to adapt.
Yeah.
So my ability to adapt is
You had to make
probably-
friends pretty quick.
You did. You had to make, and you knew in the first week, a lot of times in the first 2 days, what your whole school year was going to look like.
Right.
Because, quite frankly, I've learned you try to find out who the in crowd was, and you try to get into the in crowd. And if that guy who led the in crowd, there's always a leader, right? And if that leader that day decided, oh, I'm going to make fun of this new guy, you knew you were going to eat S all
Right.
the time you were there. Or
Right.
if that guy for some reason decided to take the new guy into his wing, you're going to be good.
Gotcha.
So I had a lot of ups and downs,
Mm-hmm.
and so it probably. But I think the number one thing for my success was work hard. I always worked hard. I just, like there was a time that, when getting all to it, I found out that I had a group under my purview when I was in Houston, in Arthur Young, that did special computerized. It was a System 360, and nobody would know what that is. It was a smaller IBM computer,
Okay.
which is big as this room, but it was a smaller
Right,
compared,
right.
And specialized
Floppy disks,
people,
all that stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I've actually coded with wires. I had
Oh, wow.
I wired, boards.
Wow.
And it shows you how old I am.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just
Seen it all.
ancient. So anyway, but there was an opportunity for that kind of computer system in another region, in the New York region, and they weren't going after it. So last minute, somebody worked for me and said, Jim, you got to look at this. This has got a big opportunity. So it was up in York, Pennsylvania, and I was living in, at the time, Houston. Right, I was working in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
So I flew up to York, and I set out. They were actually doing the final presentations between two other contenders for this system. And I sat outside all day long. At the end of the day, their CIO came out. She says, can I help you? You've been sitting here. I just would like a few minutes of your time. I said, I would like to bid on this job. And she said, this final presentation, we don't have any time to meet with you. We have, And so, but I convinced her. I said, look, I've got the specialized group. And I convinced her to give us, I said, by Monday, this was Friday, I said, well, I'll come back on Monday, give you a presentation. And I don't remember how I got the input from her because I don't know. But I had guys working basically 24/7.
For 3 days, 3 days
for
straight.
3 days.
Yeah.
And when we gave her that presentation, it was so much better than everybody else's. We got the job.
Right.
Nobody else would.
Nobody else was doing that.
Nobody else would have gone.
So you
and
would
done
say
it.
it's more. See, that's what I would say is it's not just you were working hard. I think you were doing the things nobody else would do. You're willing to do the things that nobody else was willing to do. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're right. Some people go through the motions. So there's companies out there that have people that work 9 to 5, and I know people that work 9 to 5, and they'll do everything that's required of them. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you got to do more.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to move up, if you want to be stellar,
Yeah.
you got to do more.
Yeah, and be willing to sacrifice.
Right.
Yeah, be willing
Right.
to sacrifice.
Did you went out on your own though?
Yeah.
Did you do your own accounting firm as well too?
No, well, I did. What happened was I got tired of the rat race.
Yeah.
I mean, partners in these big firms, when you make partner, you think that's when your work starts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really a grueling
Yep.
thing. And so I got tired of it. So I moved to Scottsdale.
Okay. And that's where is that where you met Tammy?
Yeah, that's a whole
Okay.
other thing. But
Yeah.
anyway, so we I was going to hire about 15 people. I was going to have a balance of life. I had no life.
Okay.
Balance of life, I was going to hire about 15 people and focus on middle market companies in the Arizona Southwest
Yep.
and install computer systems. Well, one thing led to another. In 2 years, I had people in 5 U.S. cities. I was working in 7 countries and working harder than I had ever worked at when I was at Ernst & Young. and sold my company.
Gotcha.
And
And you
so-
did you spend any times overseas? Did you live overseas some too during that period?
I didn't live there, but I flew there to oversee the projects.
Okay.
And then I lived overseas. Tammy and I lived overseas for a year.
Okay.
At one time, I was president international of Isogenics.
Okay.
That.
Gotcha. In Isogenics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I sold that company,
Yep.
and I was retired. I've retired 5 times now.
You keep getting back into it.
And I'm done. I'm down now.
Done
I'm
now. Done now.
So I had retired and met this guy, golfer, and I was just a terrible golfer, and he was a terrible golfer, so we became good friends. In country clubs, what happens is the scratch golfers play together,
That's
the
right.
guys who are 10 handicap play together, and then he and I were so bad we'd play together. Okay,
But
And
you
we
had
became
more
good
fun.
friends. Oh yeah,
You had
yeah,
more
yeah,
fun.
yeah. and much more strokes than anybody else.
That's right. That's right.
So we had a good time, and he and I became good friends, and he came to me one day and said, I can remember like it was yesterday, and said that he was starting a company, and I said, why do you want to do that? I said, you got plenty of money.
Right.
And I said, why do you want the hassle of another company?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And he said, well, we want to build the best network marketing company there is. And I didn't know what he was talking
Yeah.
about. Because a lot of people don't know what network marketing is.
Right.
And I said, well, you're still
So they would call it MLM today, right?
MLM.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so then 2 years later, he said, wow, the guy owns, he owned a little piece of this company, but the guy who owned most of the company was having his kidneys were failing.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor said, you got to sell the company. So he was talking to me about this, and I said, well, he said, I'm not sure what I do. I'm not sure how to go forward. And I said, well, Jim, you don't know that much. I mean, we're golfing buddies, but I'm
Yeah.
a Wharton MBA. I'm a CPA. I know manufacturing distribution like that, my hand. I will put together a business plan for you. I'll help you raise money. And I figured he'd buy me a watch.
Yeah.
I figured I'd get a nice Rolex
Yeah.
if I helped him raise the money.
Yeah.
So we did that, and partway through, I said, Jim, I'd like to do this. So I said, look, I'll put this much money in. I want this piece
Okay.
of the pie. I'm going to work for you for just 3 years, though.
Okay.
And then I'll be on the board. And I put all the systems in place and everything. So we started off at, first year we did, I think it was 45 million.
Okay.
And then we ended up at $1 billion 15 years later.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we sold part of the company. And we sold it. My
Wow.
timing of selling my major things have just been perfect. Like when I sold my company, less than a year later, it would have been worthless because
Right.
that company that I was would have been.
Took it just
So I was
made it-
lucky, just lucky.
You ever hear Mark Cuban's story
Yeah.
with when he got that .com deal and,
Yeah.
and he got most of it in Yahoo stock
Yeah.
and he sold most of his Yahoo stock right before Yahoo went under.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, crazy.
Yeah,
Timing is everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But do you is there anything that you can attribute that helped you with your good timing, or is it just a feeling? Or you just felt like always catch it on the rise versus trying to find the peak? I don't know.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yep.
Completely.
Like it's better
I had-
leave some money on the table than it is to not have
Yeah.
a table.
My partner, I tried for probably 3 years to say, let's take money off the table. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
And we would not have had that company without both he and his wife. And he is the smartest guy I've ever met. I have nothing but, I could sit here for an hour and tell you how great he was.
Yep.
His name's Jim Coover.
Yeah.
The company was Isogenics.
Yep.
Look him up. He's awesome.
Yeah.
He's just awesome. But what
Plow
made him
forward,
so
plow
good,
forward, plow forward.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it was like, tomorrow, why sell today? Tomorrow's going to be better.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, why sell today? I don't want to give up the company. I want to have control of my company. But okay, so
Yeah.
we finally sold it, and then we did an ESOP,
Yep.
30%, so you could still have control.
Employee
take some
stock
money off the
option
job.
program.
Yeah,
Yep.
employee stock option program. Thank you. And it was great because it's one of the best things in this world because the average hourly employee
Got a chance to have peace.
cannot.
Yeah.
The average person cannot accumulate wealth.
Yeah. No, it's really hard.
They're living.
Yeah.
They're living paycheck to paycheck, and this is a way to give them a piece of the pie, give them a way to accumulate. And the strategy was every year, every 2 or 3 years, we'd do another 30% or so.
Okay.
So in 5, 6, 7 years, the employees would own the whole company.
Perfect.
And
Perfect.
And it didn't work out because after we did the first one, 6 months later, the pandemic hit.
Oh, and then
our
the company got
and we had to give the company to the banks.
right.
And
Right.
so You
have
know,
a lot of wealth. Timing's everything.
Timing's everything.
I tell you, the older I get, Jim, I find myself more a bird in the hand kind of guy.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and when you're young, well, you always have an appetite when you're younger for risk.
Yeah,
Risk is always a big thing. But I know as I get older, we did a lot of venture capital as well, and I told somebody that my appetite. I still meet with people about venture capital, but so my appetite as I'm approaching my 50s is a lot different than when I was in my 30s for it.
Absolutely.
You know, in my 40s for it. My father-in-law. I was second generation garbage hauler, my wife and I.
Yeah.
And my father-in-law had one truck and 500 customers.
Wow.
And we built it in the largest residential hall in the state of Georgia and one of the largest residential haulers in the Southeast.
Wow.
And I remember when he was living down here and we were in Atlanta, and every year we got offers for it.
Sure.
But I can remember getting our offer, and it was our final offer that we accepted. And I called him up on the phone and I said, Dave, I've got to tell you something. He was a big believer in the rise because he said, you know, Jason, the hungry pig gets fed, the greedy pig gets slaughtered.
That's right.
It's time to go.
That's right.
So that timing really is everything, but I think you've got to catch it on the rise.
That's right.
It's stockbrokers in general tell you timing the market's almost impossible. And so I remember I did a pre-IPO with a guy one time, and after it hit, we waited around, and my stockbroker says, well, I like taking money away with me.
Yeah, that's right.
So we could hold this out,
Yeah.
or we could exit out now. And it kept going, and you're like, oh, wow, I just lost all that. But that if you're trying to time it, you gotta
That's
move
right.
on.
That's right.
So when you get out of all of that stuff, you're out of isogenics, you've done well, you've put some money aside, and then you find yourself here in this Emerald Coast of Florida.
Yeah.
Everybody around here knows you for the charities you do. You and your family have been donating to this community, and it's not just donations, because I see you on the boards, I see you in the finance committees, I see you in these different areas, I see you meeting with business leaders and telling them about this. I see you here today giving your testimony and why it's important to give back. Why did you feel it was important to give back?
I'll go back to when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that God put me through that. Not that he puts every kid through that, or that he puts whatever. I don't completely understand the world, but I believe for me, he put me through that. And he helped me. I could be broke. I mean, there's so many things in my life that went well, and so many stupid things that I did. I look back and that could have ruined me. I mean, you just, and I feel like there was somebody, it wasn't just me, like timing, things we talked about, but there's many others and stupid things I did. He protected me in my life, that I was here to help others.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you a conversation I had with somebody the other day, one of my golfing buddies. He just sold part of his company. And he made a donation to Emerald Coast, and he, but he and I were talking the other day. And I think he's going to do more. And he says, I don't understand. It's him telling me. He says, Jim, I just don't understand how people with money can't help others.
Mm.
And I believe it's our job to help others. And I believe that God has given me gifts. I don't have enough. I'm very comfortable, very happy with what we have. But I could not do it all. I have to marshal other resources.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, I spent a lot of time trying to promote people helping others. And I believe, there's so much need in every community. I told you I retired 5 times. One of the times I retired from isogenics. I retired like 3 times from isogenics.
They kept bringing you back.
And kept bringing me back. And one time I retired, and I went to work for a company as their president, basically. I said, I'll be here for 6 months or a year, and I'll help you. No payment. In fact, I probably spent $1 million of my own money that year fixing things for them. But they were a $40 million They were a $40 million charity. They kind of like Emerald Coast. They were focused on helping kids, abused kids. They also had overnight stay. They had communities for kids to stay there. There were wards, of the state and stuff. And so I went in there. I was able to take $1 million a month out of their expenses and without hurting any kids. But I think that it was. I just think it's God's will to do that. And we, there's so much need, And I was there. I was there at one of the centers today, and getting, helping get ready for things, and it's just, it's an inner desire. I can't really even explain it, but it's just like, it's a desire deep in my gut and deep in Tammy's gut and whatever, that, we help others.
Well, Jim, we're better off, a better community because you guys do press into it. You lean into it. Communities need people that lean into it. It's interesting. You framed that you felt God might have allowed you to go through this. I see the world sometimes, and my faith brings me to where I don't know that, because God gives us free will, but He gives everybody around you free will. And so there's people that, in your life that should have protected you. I don't think that had anything to do with God, you know what I mean? But I think there's a scripture that talks about how that God can use that all things He can use for His good. So that's where what happened to you is horrible. And I think out of those experiences, what I'm heard today, listening to you, is out of those experiences, God is using it for good. He's using the worst parts of you to fuel the best parts of you. And I think that's pretty amazing. I mean, that's an amazing thing, because when you hear these kids' stories, and you see what goes through there, that's an evil that is hard to understand, and it's one that you live through. But so you can empathize real well with them.
They get calls.
But it's amazing.
They get calls. Let me just give you some examples. He had a call from a mother, on drugs, and says, I am going to put my child's hand over the fire. What are you going to do about it?
Wow.
What are you going to do about it?
They get a call like that?
Yeah, like that. And it's
just taunting the sinner.
Yeah. And then and what happens too is that,
wow.
So we have one case, and the lady talks about it, so I'm not talking out of turn. She had been raped. She was a grown mother.
Mm-hmm.
She had been raped by a relative when she was growing up, multiple times. Because that's usually, if statistics will show you that, if a person doesn't know you get raped once. If it's
stranger,
a stranger
assaulting you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
terrible, absolutely horrible thing.
But if it's a relative,
they'll
or
do it
someone
multiple
close,
times.
It can last for years.
Wow.
Wow. One of my cases lasted for 3 years, something like that. But
wow.
it was so this lady had been raped by a relative, and then she grew up, and got married, had a couple of daughters, and she swore that they would never be in a position to be hurt. And so she was with them. She actually she was with them all the time. But she had her husband's father pick them up from school every day. And then she found out that he was raping one girl, had been raping her for 2 or 3 years.
Oh, my word.
And luckily they found that out before because the other girl was getting old enough.
Wow.
He is now in jail.
Wow.
And will be in the rest of his life. Because one of the things I love about Emerald Coast Child Center is that they have the support of the police department.
Well,
Sheriff Atkins.
Sheriff Atkins and the Okaloosa County as well.
Yeah, and not only their support, they're actually their child I don't remember the
Child
name.
advocate.
No, the where they actually get on the internet and track.
I interviewed an FBI profiler here.
Man.
Earlier last season, and I'll maybe flash that up so folks that listen to this go and listen to him. He had his online username was sexy mama 31.
Yeah.
And he told it, and he could tell us that because he was retired.
Yeah.
And the reason why he had that name is he said, think about it.
Yeah.
She's interested in engaging in a relationship. She's desperate. The age is 31. How old would her kids be? And they would and that name alone was a dragnet for catching predator after predator after predator. And these people would fly from Illinois to Atlanta or wherever to think they were meeting up with a 12-year-old girl, 11-year-old girl. I mean, just
think
insane
about
stuff.
How do those people sleep at night? I think about Julie Porterfield.
Yeah.
Heads up. She started and she's been there. I think
she's the
25
director
years.
of the Emerald Coast Children's Advocacy Center. Yep.
How does she sleep at night? I mean, the stories she said, and she shares some things with, but a lot of things she can't share with us. And
I pray for her all the time.
I mean, how does she?
Yeah, for sure.
How does she sleep at night?
Right.
And the people your listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Please, if you have any desire to know more, we will arrange a visit for you to go see the centers. So then in the center
absolutely.
they have the police.
That's a really good thing to say, Jim. Before you describe the center, I do want people to know we're going to flash it up there, Emerald Coast Children's Advocacy Center. If you want to know more, they are a charity that's near and dear to my heart. My wife serves on the board. Your wife serves on the board. You're on the finance committee with her. We're involved in that. It is a charity. It's one of my favorite ones to be involved with. Not because it's a favorite thing to talk about, but it's because it's so stinking important. It's so daggum important. So to Jim's point, if you listen to this and you want to just comment below, get a hold of me, and we will set up a tour for you because I tell you, change your heart. It change your mind. You can't walk out of there unchanged. You cannot walk out of there unchanged. But please describe what they have there.
Therapists. So they actually have the police units there. The police actually pay rent.
That's right.
I mean,
prosecutors are there.
The prosecutors are there.
Yep.
I was there today, and there was a volunteer with a dog.
Yep.
Can I tell one story about the dogs?
Please. This is so great. And what you're going to tell is about these, they have therapy dogs that come alongside these children through this journey, even into court.
Yeah.
So I just want to set that up for the audience.
So a man told a story who has a therapy dog. He told a story 2 or 3 years ago, I think, at the gala.
I was there. Yeah.
Yeah. And
powerful.
Moving. And so they had this one girl who had been molested.
Mm-hmm.
And Julie and her team helped her. And when they got to court, understand, before there's a center like this,
mm-hmm.
if any community that doesn't have a center like this,
mm-hmm.
let's assume a child is abused, boy or girl. But I'm going to just
they're going to have to tell their stories.
They're going to have to tell their story over and over because they go to the hospital.
Yep.
And they tell a nurse who's probably not trained.
Right.
Then they have to tell a doctor.
That's right.
Then they have to tell somebody from the police.
That's right.
And then they have to tell somebody in social service. And quite frankly, they aren't well trained.
Well, and a young kid.
The 4
amount
years,
of
5
time.
years, 7 years. I mean, think of and
well, Jim, people can get a hold of them. The abuser that you talked about earlier in your life said, "This is what I'm going to do to your family." Okay. When time's in there, these kids, they get scared. Things happen. How many times do they have to say? That's almost abuse over and over again every time they have to say it and relive it and talk about it.
And then the worst thing is they get to court, and a damn defense attorney, defense attorney, they go, "Lisa, I am so sorry for your hurt."
Yeah.
Okay, well, you told the policeman this, you told this,
Yep.
you told your story 4 different versions.
Yeah.
Which version is true, or any of it's true?
They do whatever they can to make it sound like you're a liar.
Off. Yeah. And then the guy gets off.
Yeah.
Okay? This way, the police are in the thing, the prosecutors are in the same building.
The medical exams there.
The medical exams there. They have a room about this size, but it has teddy bears in it. It has cartoons all over the walls. It looks like a little Disneyland, if you will, or Warner Brothers or whatever. And then they have a mirror.
A two-way mirror for another.
And the
room.
other side of the mirror is all the people. And the person, the lady or man who's doing the interview, they're well trained. Okay, and they got a little earpiece, and so they ask questions. And then if the prosecutor or policeman, anybody wants to ask, they just say, "Hey, ask Susie this too." So now they have it on tape. So they have one version, and their success rate.
It's authentic. It's
like that one man I told you is away for the rest of his life.
Yep.
Okay, and so
you know what else is beautiful about the Emerald Coast Children's Advocacy Center is that they don't stop there.
That's right.
They up until 18, they get counseling.
Yeah.
And so these kids can go in and they can speak with a therapist and they can begin healing.
Yeah.
So that when they get back out into the world, the hope is that they can break that generational sin. That they can be healthy, productive, viable members of our community.
That's right. There's
that's, to me, that's like, I'm with you. I'm angry.
Yeah.
I want justice. But God, I want mercy for that child.
Yeah, and there's a girl who we know who I met her as a young girl. I've been involved with this now over 10 years, and she graduated from high school. She actually got a scholarship from Doug. What's Doug's group name?
Ellis Foundation.
Yeah, Ellis Foundation.
Yeah.
She got a scholarship. That's another thing if you want to help kids.
The Ellis Foundation's great too. We've got.
Hopefully, you do have Doug in here sometime.
Yeah, I need to bring him in. I know Doug, and that story's just tragic story. And but man, if you're listening to this and you're in the Emerald Coast for sure, or if you're touched by the Emerald Coast and you don't know where to give, what you need to understand, this community has a lot of incredible programs that are doing incredible things. And we've got like 90,000 residents on our whole county. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Very giving, very heartful.
It really is.
And so she just got a scholarship and she's going to college.
That's great.
And so I mean, it's great. But I'm going to go back to the dog.
Yeah, the dog story. I'm sorry. I know we got off. I wanted to. Well, it's me too. I got ADD. I'm a dad with ADD. So but I wanted to paint the picture for everybody to understand what the center is. It's not these kids just telling these horrific stories. They are advocates that walk with this child through this story. Yeah. And so I wanted to paint that picture because this dog part is really cool.
So part of the dog is therapy. I mean, the kids love the dogs, and so this one man told a story at the gala last year, 2 years ago, whatever. The dog had gotten to become good friends with Susie. Well, Advocacy Center also helps prepare Susie, and the prosecutors help prepare Susie for the trial. Imagine. I mean, I just can't imagine going. I can't imagine me being up and talking about the people who abused me. And I was a guy, and I have a lot of gumption. But a little girl, especially. So, anyway, she got up there. So he has a dog, and he's sitting. He's not the audience, but whatever you call that, where people are there watching the trial.
Okay.
And she started crying, and that dog left his side.
Oh, come on.
And walked up around the side and just sat next to her. Think about,
the connection that dog had, the love she felt from that animal,
and that
and how he felt her pain,
and help her get through it. I mean, just amazing. And I could sit here for 3 hours and tell you stories about that stuff, but so. I've worked for multiple charities where I've lived in multiple places that do similar things. And, a lot of times, so what happened is, let's say the mother and daughter come in, and it could be a boy too. It's not just girls.
That's true.
But they train you. What happens?
And it is.
The staff have to, and the staff has to keep the mother away from the daughter, so the daughter can tell her story, because a lot of times it'll be the mother, and the mother knows the abuser.
Right.
And the mother, and then they can't even say anything because you got to watch the mother. So she doesn't, like, if the police then the police decide to go get this guy, sometimes the mother calls and warns the guy, hey, the police are after you.
Right.
And it's such because the poor mother,
Stockholm syndrome, not sure she's believing it. What am I going to do?
That's right.
Yeah.
And so therapy also can be given for the rest of the family. But,
right.
Because if a child is abused, the other child, a lot of times, even if they aren't abused, they sense what's going on, and they have some issues. So.
There's some adjacent abuse. They knew it, didn't know what to say. There's some shame.
Yeah.
There could, in the mother
too.
has some stuff. No, you're right.
So they help.
Full family. There's
And I mean, think about that poor mother who thought she was protecting her daughters, and her father-in-law was doing it. I mean, it's just.
There's some of the worst ones. Jim, I'm doing a series right now, and I want to have you on it as well. And I know, and I'm sure I can talk you into it. I just shot one of them where the center gave me stories of children that they've changed the name, they condensed the story, and I'm reading them. And I'm reading them to the camera, and I'm putting in. I'll have the first one done before the gala, so it'll go out, and I'll drop it on my website too. So maybe when this comes out, we'll end this show with that story. But we're doing these stories, and we're calling it "Not One More."
Yeah.
And it's to bring awareness to what our center's doing. Other centers could certainly use these videos because these stories are just running rampant. And some days you wonder, is it getting better?
Yeah. Yeah.
But they keep coming in. I mean, 16 in our 2-county area. I think it's 1,600 kids a year, or 1,300. I mean, one's too many, but we're over 1,000 of children.
And
every
it's not
year.
just and people say, it's just minorities or people who are
doesn't matter.
Think about the
this
guy
touches everybody.
One of the guys who abused me was an exec for Disney.
Yeah.
I mean, it's anybody. Anybody. And so it's just, and I bet you, I mean, I'd never be able to, I bet you his father abused him, or a neighbor abused him, because that's what happens. It just keeps going, and you got to break the cycle.
Well, we normalize it. I mean, you've got the pornography industry, you've got so many other things that just normal, and there's very rarely in that industry are people in it that are excited to be in it or want to be in it, and certainly you don't even realize the abuse that happens in it that's on film. So but we tend to normalize some of this stuff, and it just can permeate in. It can just permeate into society, and then if you've got, like you said, any sort of abuse history in your past, you're right, and you don't get help, you can be prone to be the abuser. Yeah, you can be prone to be the abuser.
That's right.
You really can.
Somebody did this to me, I can do it to other people.
It seems like that's what statistics say. Yeah. I mean, it seems like that's what statistics are saying. Jim, I have. We could continue talking for hours. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I want to tell you, hearing your story of where you came from, and then to all your excesses in the accounting world, and your own business, and Isogenics, and then. But really, even how you then turned around and have just poured into our community dollars, time. Our area is better because Jim and Tammy Pierce are in it, and I'm so thankful for that. I want to ask you one last question, and I asked many of my guests. I had a variation of this last season, but what I want to ask you is there a a lot of young people that listen to this, people that dive in at even, like I said, 18. Sometimes they're just out of college, just starting business, just starting families. Is there one discipline, one thing that you added to your life that you have now in your life that you wish you had done as a younger person? If you could go back and tell yourself, I wish I started doing this, what would you tell your younger version, or people listening during that 20, 25, 26-year-old version themselves?
I wish I had been more religious earlier. I'm not that religious now, but
right.
I wish I wish I had. It doesn't matter what religion. I don't care if Buddha, if it's whatever it is. I just think a religious could help you, and
the disciplines apply.
I just one time I was with Morgan Freeman, and he had just finished the God series. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And it was interesting talking about there's a lot of the great religions in this world,
Mhm.
and I think if I could do one thing, it'd be get more religious, more studies for that. That's what I would do.
We get a lot of that. I get a lot of that. I've interviewed now. We're over 70 interviews, and I get a lot of. I lean into my faith more.
Yeah.
Faith builds discipline, breeds it for sure. Well, Jim, this has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
I can't wait to continue to do good things around the community with you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for
Absolutely.
this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for all you do.
Thank
I mean,
you.
God bless you, man.
Man, I appreciate that.
And your wife.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Jim.